been bequested or bequeathed, precious, and they don't like anyone trampling on it. And that's normal. And I think, but in a university class, we have to do that in order to move forward, because we're studying things supposedly in a non-committed, objective way. And the objective way here is that Helen is an important person. But you couldn't tell a normal believer that Helen's an important person because they never even heard of Helen. Why is she important? Because Josephus mentions her right in the midst of the great famine and the Theudas material. He also mentions the conversion of her two sons and describes it in great detail. And in addition, he gives us the material we have here that Helen purchased grain from Egypt with large sums distributed to the poor. That Helen was involved in famine relief operations. He understands the significance of that, Eusebius, because he's done a little reading, even though he's a very bigoted person and a very malicious person, but he has done some homework. He's not a dope. And he realizes that overlaps with Barnabas and Paul's famine relief mission from Antioch. Because the book of Acts says that there was a famine and Paul and Barnabas were sent up to Jerusalem with famine relief funds. That's in the same chapter as this beheading of James, the brother of John. So you see, it's all centering around the same materials. The beheading of James, the brother of John. The beheading of Theudas. The famine relief activities. When Acts, as we see, tells you about the famine relief activities of Barnabas and Paul, or Saul, it never tells us the outcome of the mission. What does it do in chapter 12? It starts chapter 12 with the beheading of this person it thinks is called James, the brother of John. But it never tells us what Paul and Barnabas do in Jerusalem, or how they were received, or anything else. It goes through Peter being arrested, and then Peter sending to the brothers to tell James that he's been escaped from prison and is leaving the country. And he has the messenger, he goes to the house of Mary to leave a message for James. Well, that makes sense. Mary is the mother of James in theory, right? Oh, no. But the book of Acts doesn't want to admit that. So Mary suddenly becomes yet another of these multiplication of Marys. She becomes, in the book of Acts, who? Mary, the mother of John Mark, who we've never heard of and never heard of again in the history of the book of Acts. Peter goes to the house of Mary, the mother of John Mark, to leave a message for James and the brothers. Why would Peter go to Mary, the mother of John Mark, to leave a message for James and the brothers? Why wouldn't he go to the house of Mary, the mother of James the Just, to leave a message for James and the brothers? Because the writers don't want to admit that Mary had any other children. Therefore, it has to be a different Mary. Yeah.
What if she's just an important figure for the early church?
There's lots of what ifs. I'm not saying, I'm giving you an alternate explanation. You can defend the manuscripts if you want, that's fine. I'm giving you a way of seeing the manuscript in a different way. Your gut instinct is always going to be defend the manuscript as it's given, because that's the tradition you have inherited. So you'll always have a what if. What I want to do is say, what if what I'm saying has some validity? That is the question that has to be answered is, who is this Mary, the mother of John Mark? Oh, say, well, she's important. No, she's not. We never hear her before or since. And how come we have so many Marys? And what's going on here? Why did he go to Mary's house to leave a message for James? Why not just go to Mary, James's mother's house to leave a message for James? Since we know that Mary had a house in Jerusalem, according to numerous documents of this time. Anyway, it's too complicated to go further, but what I'm trying to say is, farther afield again, Acts 12 does not tell us about Paul and Barnabas' famine relief mission. It goes through all this material and ends with the death of Agrippa I in a weird way, in a theatrical way. And then it laconically says at the end, and Paul and Barnabas returned from their famine relief mission. But it never told us anything about what happened in between. Instead, it gave us all this other material. Why am I having a chuckle? Because I think there's a lot going on here under the surface that Acts is not telling us about, that more than meets the eye. And that's my point in this class, to try to alert you as students to these things so that you can look into them. You don't have to agree with me, and I don't expect you would or should. But you must at least wrestle with these problems to some extent yourself. That's all. You're trying to do that. Your explanation, as hers is, James didn't follow the real doctrine of Jesus. Your explanation is, oh, maybe there was another Mary who was important in the early church. Now, these are all possible explanations. John Kerry wouldn't let them fly very much if Bush said them. He'd be pouncing on them like a tiger. But in any case, I gotta hurry. So let's finish this Queen Helen stuff. So she's Queen of the Ossuarians, according to my title here. I'm not sure if that's an actual part of the manuscript or an addition given by this given editor. In the Penguin version of this book, is the section called Helen, Queen of the Ossuarians, or not?
Queen of Adiabene?
You say Adiabene. Mine says Queen of the Ossuarians. Yours says Queen of the so there are different editions of this. Yeah, this is, the question is what the original man, we'd have to look into this whole question. I think yours has updated it because we know she's Queen of Adiabene. But the fact that she's Queen of the Ossuarians, I think, is following Syriac tradition, wherein Helen is Agabus's wife. And therefore, since Agabus is king of the Ossuarians, she is Queen of the Ossuarians. Now, someone has said, no, she's not Queen of the Ossuarians, she's Queen of Adiabene, which is Kurdistan, which is further east than Syria. And as we know, the Assyrians and the Kurds are all mixed together anyway, even in modern Iraq. We have someone from Syriac background here, so therefore we want to be particularly careful about these people. So in any case, so they distributed the funds, and of this same Helen, splendid monuments are still seen in the suburbs of Jerusalem to this day, called Aelia. That is, Jerusalem was renamed Aelia Capitolana after all the uprisings, and she was said to have been the queen of the Adiabene. Of Adiabene is this area in Kurdistan. We then jump right into the discussion of Simon Magus, and that is really interesting because I'm going to come back to this Queen Helen of Adiabene often, and her famine relief shop. Now, she is praised in Josephus for her famine relief operations. She is praised in the Talmud for her famine relief operations, so this is all known. Now, some people in my other class had a copy of Josephus, and on the cover of it was a picture of the monument from the Arch of Titus, that the victory celebration of Titus, the booty that was taken to Rome. Does anyone have that copy of